Not that long time ago, Putin signed a law which allows the Ministry of Defense of Russia send these electronic notifications that they are being summoned into the army. And while the Russian authorities promised that these electronic summons will never be equal to actual in-person summons, you can already guess what happened. People started receiving these electronic notifications left and right, and according to the government, this was just to verify their biographical data and maybe do some testing to update the person's file. But as everything related to the Russian invasion into Ukraine, surprise, surprise, it turned out to be a lie. And since I am the Russian citizen, how does it affect me? Did I receive my own electronic notification summons? And what will happen if I don't respond? These are the questions we'll briefly talk about in today's video. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. So probably a lot of you have already seen my first video about me being actually summoned into the Russian army, and if you haven't seen it, just please go ahead and do it. It just gives you a pretty good understanding that the Russian authorities, they do not care about who they want to enlist in the army, and whenever they mention that this was a partial mobilization of 300,000 people, always keep in mind that you should always multiply this number by at least 2. Like mentioned previously, approximately in the mid-April, Putin signed a new law, which allows to send electronic notifications of a person being drafted into the army. And what they basically mean is that as soon as you receive it, you have only 20 days to show up in the nearest military enlistment office or face pretty severe consequences, which limit your citizen activities to a bare minimum. Just for example, you will not be able to get a mortgage, you will not be able to do anything that involves the official documents, you will not even be able to legally drive your car. And these military summons, once again according to the Russian authorities, is to just verify your biographical data. Don't worry, you will not be sent into Ukraine. And once you do show up in the military enlistment office to update your file, you are now forever trapped inside their system. And once there is actual mobilization happening, you'll be one of the first ones called to be summoned into Ukraine. And if you already avoid this one, now this is a criminal offense. And in the worst case scenario, if you do decide to show up in the military enlistment office, for some reason they will find that your occupation is extremely necessary in the military training camp, you will be most likely sent there within a week, and just don't worry, trust me, they will find a reason. And just if you already think that this is crazy, unfair and intrusive, wait until you hear some other methods that the Russian authorities use to track, spy and find and even enroll their people into the military. And just before we continue and talk about this, can you please like this video and subscribe to my channel to help me spread the news of what is actually happening inside Russia. I am receiving such news from my relatives and friends who are still inside the country, so this is as close to the original source as it gets. I love my country, and it does not mean that I'm supposed to love my government. I want to help my motherland to throw off the shackles of the tyranny by at least making these short more personal videos, in addition to my daily news reports, which by the way, they'll be back very soon. Thank you so much for helping me with my mission, and now let's continue. How else do you think the Russian government decided to track its own people? And well, to begin with, the companies will now have to report the updated statistics, which includes the phone numbers and the addresses of its employees. Because, I mean, whenever people turn 18 and they start receiving a lot of official documents, they have to show their address, which most likely later it changes, but not too many people decide to update it. The second way the government collects your data is that if you have a doctor's appointment, especially in the public hospital, the doctors are now forced to collect your personal data and pass it along to the government. And this is in addition to a person passing a pretty extensive questionnaire, which includes the questions about his mental and physical health, which is also then transported to the government, which makes the job of military enlistment offices of finding suitable applicants even easier. And all this is even before you can talk to your doctor. And the third way the government collects the data, which in my personal opinion is one of the craziest ones, is that mobile operators now also have to collect your updated address, and if you fail to provide it, they will disconnect you from their phone lines, and you will not be able to just buy another SIM card from another provider, because they won't let you do it until you give them your real address. All this information that the government of Russia collects through dozens or probably even hundreds of different sources is then passed along to the military enlistment offices, so it is way easier for them to find you. And that is why, in the past, the Russian men usually did not live in their official address, which were basically they were trying to do everything possible not to meet the representatives of the military enlistment officer in person. Now it became so much harder. And all of this begs another important question. Does it look like that Putin is getting ready to announce another round of mobilization? Well, obviously we will not be able to tell for sure until it happens, but to be honest, it does look this way. Especially because recently the Russian army propaganda intensified like 10 times. You can now see it everywhere, on radio, TV, on the internet, even in the most recent Russian movies and TV shows. And here are just a few pictures that my father sent to me, and pretty much as you can see it's even on the billboards, on the bus stations, and even inside residential elevators. They even went further and started putting these flyers inside people's mailboxes, urging them to sign a military contract and go to Ukraine, promising a very high salary, increased pensions, assistance with the utilities, or even free education. Most of these things will never happen, or maybe the person will unfortunately not live long enough to receive them. The ultimate question is, did I receive my military summons? The short answer is yes. The representatives of the military enlistment office, they did show up in my parents' apartment looking for me, but since I'm not currently living in Russia, technically it was nothing else they're able to do. I am in their database, they know my name, they know my phone number, they know where I live, but thanks to notorious Russian bureaucracy, I do not have the account on this government website where people usually receive their electronic notifications of being summoned. Because in order for me to even create this account online, I have to be present in person in the government building. But once again it does not matter, because all the required information on me, they already have it. That is why I might be relatively safe for as long as I'm not inside Russia, but as soon as I cross the border, I once again appear on their radars. And for as long as this war is going, unfortunately, my very own home is the most unwelcoming place on earth. And that is why I keep making these videos, to try and make the situation at least a little bit better. And I thank you so much guys for helping me with this mission, for spreading the news and also to subscribing to my channel. So see you on Monday.